Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. Let's get Rog on the phone so that we can start our show.
Hello.
Good morning.
Ooh, is that what it is, morning?
Yeah, well, it's afternoon for me.
Oh, I gotta get my brain time here to get going.
Loading. Not sure why.
What's that?
That light makes you look 20 years younger for some reason.
Younger?
Yeah.
During the headlights. Get my head in the way, and we're good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now we gotta find some stories. It'll take me a second, man. Get another
Okay.
story. All right. I guess I'm good.
Okay, ready to start then. Day on Before Coffee. Age of extinction. Flagship EU law to restore nature must not be derailed, warns environmental chief.
Rudy Giuliani is a creep. Who knew?
Rishi Sunak to push for Europe-wide approach to illegal migration.
Zelenky blitzes Europe with fighter jet diplomacy.
5 men found guilty over 113 million Dresden jewelry heist.
And in South American news, Bolivian EV startup hopes to tiny car will make it big in lithium-rich country. Today, May 16th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
All right, for our first news story, let us look at EU law and the environment. A flagship law to restore nature across Europe must be agreed to by member states or risk sending a dangerous negative signal to the world, the EU's Environment Commissioner has warned amid growing opposition to legislation. Last June, the European Commission revealed proposals for legally binding targets for all member states to restore wildlife on land, rivers, and the sea. The Nature Restoration Law was announced alongside a separate law proposing a crackdown on chemical pesticides, and both were welcomed as a milestone by environmentalists ahead of the COP15 Biodiversity Summit in Montreal. But they have since faced strong opposition from agricultural, fishing, and forestry lobbying groups in some member states. The centre-right European People Party, EPP, the largest group in Parliament, has called for the legislation to be scrapped, saying it would have a negative impact on farmers and claiming it would jeopardize climate commitments. Documents seen by The Guardian indicate that some member states are trying to water down both proposals, with particularly strong opposition to the creation of areas designated for restoration and to curb on pesticide use. We are standing on the edge of a cliff with biodiversity collapse, and the rejection of the Nature Restoration Law would be jumping into the void. Virginius Sinkevicius. Hello? There's a Roman here? The EU Commissioner for the Environment's name is Virginius Sinkevicius. I'm not even joking, okay. The rejection of the most ambitious proposal ever to restore nature would send a dangerous, negative signal to the world that the EU and its member states backtrack on commitments, they said. A separate commissioner oversees the pesticide law proposal. There is no possibility to implement the Green Deal without nature. We can do excellent work in decreasing emissions. We can get to zero, but if ecosystems degrade, if soil degrades, if our forests degrade, if marine ecosystems degrade, they are not able to absorb carbon or mitigate heat. We have no technology to replace them. The Nature Restoration Law is equivalent to the climate law, and I hope it will be taken as seriously. Ariel Brunner, Regional Director of BirdLife Europe, said the opposition from the member states and lobbyists went beyond normal horse trading in Brussels, and said abandoning commitments in Europe would undermine calls for member states to protect key ecosystems in other parts of the world, such as the Amazon forest. This is very serious. There's a high-level attempt by the farming, forest, and fishing lobby to kill the legislation. This is not a debate about details with the usual games. Here there really is an attempt to just knock it off. These two pieces of legislation and nature restoration and pesticides are one of the three legs of the European Green Deal. Killing them means abandoning the Green Deal. It would be terrible for Europe's standing in the world and would give credence to the Bolsonaros of this world who said that all the climate and biodiversity stuff is an attempt to keep us poor by the rich world so they can stay rich, Brunner added. Time is running out for the EU's legislative agenda to pass the proposals ahead of European elections next year. The EU was a key player in driving the environmental ambition of the final agreement of COP15 in Montreal, which included targets to project 30% of the planet for nature by the end of the decade and restoring 30% of degraded ecosystems. So, hopefully they don't do that, but it's funny that there's a conspiracy about how the rich are trying to keep us poor by making up all this climate stuff, right? But then the people who are lobbying to stop it are huge industries that make a lot of money. So in reality, the rich are trying to stop climate change because then they won't make as much money, is what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, they figured it out. You tell stupid people anything, they'll believe it. and they won't even look into it. They just found somebody to blame. That's all they care about. Whoa.
Your story, by the way.
All right, then. And Babe Magnet news. Rudy Giuliani. Former associate of Giuliani sued the former New York mayor, presidential candidate, and attorney to Donald Trump for $10 million on Monday, alleging abuses of power, wide-ranging sexual assault, and harassment, wage theft, and other misconduct, including alcohol-drenched rants that include sexist, racist, and anti-Semitic remarks. Filed in New York State, Nicole Dunphy's suit includes the allegation that Giuliani often demanded oral sex while he took phone calls on speakerphone. I apologize to our viewers and listeners. On phone calls from the high-profile friends and clients, including Trump. Giuliani is alleged to have told Dunphy he enjoyed engaging in this conduct while on the telephone because it made him feel like Bill Clinton. Clinton was impeached, and we know who Clinton is. The lawsuit also included an allegation that Giuliani asked Dunphy if she knew anyone in need of a pardon because he was selling pardons for $2 million, which he and President Trump would split.
That's crazy.
The complaint added that, well, think about Giuliani. He is crazy. The guy who had the press conference at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, yeah, he's normal. The complaint added that Dunphy could refer people seeking pardons to him as long as she avoided the normal channel was going through the office of the pardon attorney, a role within the Department of Justice which could be subject to public disclosure. On Monday, a statement in New York Daily News, Giuliani represented the former mayor vehemently and completely denies the allegations in the complaint and plans to thoroughly defend against these allegations as pure harassment or attempt extortion. Unfortunately for him, there's tapes. Giuliani was already in extensive legal jeopardy. His work in Ukraine seeking dirt in New York's rivals led to Trump's first impeachment. His leading role in an attempt to overturn a 2020 election contributed to Trump being impeached the second time. With his law license already suspended, Giuliani is reported to be at risk of criminal indictment. In a 70-page lawsuit, Dunphy says Giuliani hired her in January 2019. At the time, the suit says Giuliani was at the height of his influence, serving as personal lawyer for Trump, having fashioned himself publicly as a major player in American politics, a successful businessman, and an important power broker. Drinking his own Kool-Aid.
Yep.
The suit says Giuliani offered Dunphy a $1 million year plus expenses to be his director of business development, also offering to represent her for free in a dispute with an abusive ex-partner. Looking for a sucker, Giuliani was, and he found one. Giuliani is alleged to have deferred paying Dunphy, citing his acrimonious divorce from Judith Giuliani, his third wife, but he allegedly was swift to demand sex. As Giuliani later admitted in a recorded statement, he wanted Dunphy from the day he interviewed her. The suit contained remarks it says were recorded. Giuliani, the filing says, began abusing Miss Dunphy almost immediately after she started working, made clear that satisfying sexual demands virtually any time anymore was an absolute requirement. Again, I apologize. The document is filled with lurid allegations. Giuliani, it says, often demanded that Dunphy work naked in a bikini and short shorts with an American flag on them that he bought for her. When they were apart, they would often work remotely via teleconference. Giuliani almost asked her to remove her clothes on camera. He often called her from his bed, where he was visibly touching himself under the white sheet. Well, enough of this fun stuff. Giuliani's a pig. We know this. And this only confirms it. And, boy, I tell you what. This guy has no shame. Your story.
When you're at that level, you really do have no shame.
Are you done puking yet? You ready?
I know. Yeah, I'm good. We can stop.
You get your hair in the toilet while you're puking. Okay.
All right. Let us go to our next story, which is about something I vehemently have opinions on, which is illegal immigration, which doesn't exist.
Okay, go ahead.
People are not illegal, as I like to say. The famous saying that has been popularized in the last 10 years.
I think all people are illegal, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. If we're talking about illegal immigrants, all the white people should leave America, but it's not going to happen.
All people should leave planet Earth. We're screwing it up.
Rishi Sunak will plead with other world leaders at a summit on Tuesday for cooperation to tackle illegal migration as he seeks to reassert his authority over the restless right of his party. He will also seek to use a rare meeting with the President of the European Court of Human Rights, the ECHR, to win backing for UK attempts to overcome rules that block the first scheduled deportation flight to Rwanda. The international system for policing human trafficking is not working, Sunak will say in an address in Reykjavik at a meeting of the Council of Europe, a gathering of leaders from the EU, other European states, and the ECHR. Sunak's renewed push for a Europe-wide approach comes after France previously rejected Britain's calls for bilateral return agreements for migrants crossing the Channel, insisting that there was a need for a wider EU agreement. Really? After all the history in the entire world between France and the UK, and the UK still thinks it can bully France to do anything. France will not do something because the UK asked them. It's like a rule of the universe. Oh, can you guys help us stop immigration? You want our help? Definitely no. That's what France's reply will always be until the end of time.
They already have a holy grail, so don't even try it.
However, the most important meeting in Iceland could be his discussions with Siofra O'Leary, the ECHR's president, over planned changes to how Rule 39 works in order that prevented the inaugural deportation flight taking asylum seekers to Rwanda last summer. He is expected to tell her that reforms is needed to create an international system that allows states to protect their borders and help people most in need. Looming over the talks, government sources have said, is the memory of Sunak carving in last month to demands from hard-right MPs to allow the UK to ignore rulings from the European Court of Human Rights on small boat crossings. Backbench rebels had been pushing the Prime Minister to harden the illegal migration bill so ministers could ignore interim rulings. One of the Strasbourg Court Rule 39 injunctions blocked the government's first attempt to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda last year. Yeah, I mean, isn't it a protected right if you're seeking asylum that you get protection? Specifically, unless they're illegally seeking asylum. Like, there's no reason people from Rwanda, which I doubt, would need asylum. Why are you coming here? Go to a different country. Like, we only want Ukrainians. The trip comes as migration tops the political agenda, with the Home Secretary Suella Braverman arguing in a speech on Monday's National Conservatism Conference that Britain must not lose sight of the importance of controlling legal migration, as well as preventing people from entering via unauthorized channels. Literally, because it's the channel that they cross on boats. Anyways, terrible joke. The Daily Telegraph reported that the Home Office had privately shared figures with Number 10, suggesting more than 1.1 million foreign workers and students could arrive in Britain in 2024, just as the Tories face a general election test. Yeah, but these are legal people, so who cares? you're talking about illegal immigration, but you're focusing all on the legal people, right? Just admit it's about immigrants. You don't like immigrants. You don't like people coming to your country. You just want to be bland British people for the rest of the time.
Yeah, but they did clear all of Scotland at one time just to get rid of people and put sheep in their place. So
yeah.
that's it.
Speaking before the trip, the Prime Minister said every single point on each route used by people traffickers to smuggle people across our continent represents another community struggling to deal with human cost of this barbaric enterprise. It is very clear that our current international system is not working, and our communities and the world's most vulnerable people are paying the price. Oh, okay, so it's not about anti-immigration, it's about all those poor people are taking advantage of, and they're paying out the ass to get smuggled into our country. Maybe you should make it easier for people to enter. Oh no, but then you have immigrants in your country. Oh wow, what a complicated scenario. So dumb. Anyways, that's the end of the story. Immigration.
Only punish the victims, not the criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's immigration for you. Well, what are we gonna do about these big companies that are making lots of money? Who cares? All right, then. International diplomacy news. Council of Europe summit in Iceland seeks to hold Russia to account for Ukraine war. As Zelensky's jets across Europe, leaders from across the continent were headed towards Iceland Tuesday for a rare summit of 46 nation Council of Europe that will once more step up support for member state Ukraine and condemn expelled Russia from inflicting war on its neighbors. And after Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky stocked up on promises of military hardware during a long weekend of diplomatic hobnobbing with the continent's major leaders, the two-day summit of Europe's main human rights body will be centering on providing legal and judicial means to go after the Kremlin. This is a AP story, by the way. David Keitman and Ralph Kassert. Okay. By Wednesday's conclusion, leaders at the summit want to have the outlines of a system in place that will set up a register for all of the damage already caused by Russian forces to Moscow can be held liable for compensation to victims later. They are hoping that the United States, which has observer status in the summit, will also back that initiative. The register is just one of the number of international initiatives set up to ensure accountability for the crimes inflicted upon Ukraine, said British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The Council also wants to make sure that Russia can be held accountable for what it sees as a plethora of crimes committed during the invasion. I will very strongly support the creation of a dedicated tribunal to bring Russia's crimes of aggression to trial, said EU Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen. Plans for such a high court in The Hague have yet to bear fruit. Bears don't actually produce fruit. Did you know that?
No.
In Kiev,
but thanks.
There is no bear fruit. In Kiev, the words of support were no match for Moscow's military might as Russia launched an intense air attack on the capital using a combination of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. In the Icelandic capital, Reykjavik, how do you spell the capital of Iceland? How do you pronounce that? Reykjavik. This diplomacy was seeking a counterweight with keynote speeches by Sunak, von der Leyen, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Zelensky headed home Tuesday after a fruitful three-day tour through Europe where leaders promised him an arsenal of missiles, tanks, and drones to replenish Ukraine's weapons supplies ahead of a long-anticipated spring offensive, which we covered yesterday. It's getting a little bit late to be calling it spring. There will be no escaping the plight of Ukraine during the two-day summit of the Strasbourg-based Council on Europe. Since its inception in 1949, it has been a guardian with fluctuating, she says, of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law on the continent. Rarely has the need been higher than in today's world. The summit will also want to focus on the plight of children that have been moved from Ukraine to Russia during the invasion. In March, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for war crimes, accusing him of personal responsibilities for his abductions of children from Ukraine. Another official has also been indicted. Since the start of the war, the Russians have been accused of deporting Ukrainian children to Russia or Russian-held territories to raise them as their own. Thousands of children have been seized from schools and orphanages during Russia's occupation of eastern Ukraine, and it is not known where they are now.
Okay.
True story.
Convenient that both of our stories coincide with each other. Two different topics at the same Iceland meeting, I guess.
It's a messy world.
In news over the Dresden jewelry heist. A German court has convicted 5 men over the theft of 18th century jewels worth more than 113 million. They were given a prison sentence of between 4 years and 4 months and 6 years and 3 months. German news agency DPA reported one defendant was acquitted. So I guess they got the stuff back, which is why they're not taking such a harsh punishment. They got the jewels back. They found the thieves, and they were like, "Well, we found you." So, and we got it back.
Thieves.
So it's not a. The Dresden State Court ruled that 5 men, aged 24 to 29, were responsible for the audacious break-in at the Eastern German city's Green Vault Museum on the 25th November 2019, and the theft of 21 pieces of jewelry containing more than 4,300 diamonds, with a total insured value of at least 113 million or euros. They were convicted of particularly aggravated arson in combination with dangerous bodily injury, theft with weapons, damage of property, and intentional arson. The men laid a fire just before the break-in to cut the power supply to the street lights outside the museum, and also set fire to a car in a nearby garage before fleeing to Berlin. They were caught several months later in raids in Berlin. In January, there was a plea bargain between the defense, prosecution, and court after most of the stolen jewels were returned. Yeah, that's what I thought. They must have returned the jewels, otherwise they would not be getting up to 6 months or whatever. 4 years to 6 months in prison for stealing a lot of property. The plea bargain has been agreed to by 4 defendants who subsequently admitted their involvement in the crime through their lawyers. The 5th defendant also confessed, but only to the procurement of objects such as axes used to make holes in the museum display case, DPA reported. The Green Vault is one of the world's oldest museums. It was established in 1723, contains the treasury of Augustus the Strong of Saxony, and comprising around 4,000 objects of gold, precious stones, and other material. If they wanted to get away with it, they probably should have left the country and also melted it down somewhere. But instead they just stayed in, Dresden to Berlin. Okay, you're in the same country. You went to a major, the capital of the country. I'm pretty sure that's...
Plan.
Yeah. They had a plan. It wasn't good, but they had one.
They only catch dumb criminals, right?
Yeah. It's a really short story. That's about all that they've said. But,
All right. Well, here's the story. It's special interest. It's about, you wonder where these poor countries ever develop an economy. Well, here's Bolivia. The municipality of La Paz, Bolivia, is using a small fleet of tiny electric cars to bring doctors and patients home living in the southern capital city. So it's about a startup that's making electric cars. La Paz, Bolivia. This is ABC News. Carlos Valdez. On a recent cold morning, Dr. Carlos Ortuna hopped into a tiny electric car to go back to check on a patient on the outskirts of Bolivia's capital, La Paz. Unsure if the vehicle would be able to handle the steep, winding streets of the high-altitude city. Although that's because of the city's topography, it was going to be a struggle. But it's a great climber, said Ortuno about his experience with driving Quantum, the first EV to have ever been made in Bolivia. The difference from gasoline-powered vehicle is huge, he said. Ortuno's home visit aboard a car the size of a golf cart was part of the government-sponsored program that brings doctors to patients living in neighborhoods far from the city center. The Doctor in Your House program was launched last month by the municipality of La Paz using a fleet of 6 EVs manufactured by Quantum Motors, the country's sole producer of electric cars. It is a pioneering idea. It helps protect the health of those in need while protecting the environment and supporting local production, La Paz Mayor Ivan Arias said. The program can also help boost Quantum Motors, a company launched 4 years ago by a group of entrepreneurs who believes EVs will transform the auto industry in Bolivia, a lithium-rich country where cheap, subsidized, imported gasoline is still the norm. Built like a box, the Quantum moves at no more than 35 miles an hour. It can be recharged from a household outlet and can travel 50 miles before recharge. Its creators hope the $7,600 car will help revive dreams of lithium-powered economy and make electric cars something the masses will embrace. E-mobility will prevail worldwide in the next few years, but it will be different in different countries, says Jose Carlos Marquez, general manager of Quantum Motors. Tesla will be a dominant player in the U.S. with its speedy autonomous cars, but in Latin America, cars will be more compact because our streets are more similar to those in Bombay and New Delhi than those of California. But the company's quest to boost e-mobility of the South American country has been challenging. In the 4 years since it released its first EVs, Quantum Motors sold barely 350 cars in Bolivia and an undisclosed number of units in Peru and Paraguay. The company is also set to open a factory in Mexico later this year, although no further details have been provided on the scope of production there. Still, Quantum Motors' bet on battery-powered cars makes sense when it comes to Bolivia's resources. With an estimated 21 million tons, Bolivia has the world's largest reserve of lithium, a key component in electric batteries, but it has yet to extract and industrialize its vast resources of the metal. In the meantime, the large majority of vehicles in circulation are still powered by fossil fuels, and the government continues to pour millions of dollars subsidizing imported fuel then sells at half the price to the domestic market. Terrible sentence structure. The Quantum car might be cheap, but I don't think it has the capacity of gasoline-powered cars, says Marco Antonio Rodriguez, a car mechanic in La Paz, although he acknowledges people might change their mind once the government puts the end to gasoline subsidies. Well, it's cheap. Yeah, it's artificially cheap, moron. Despite the challenges ahead, the makers of the Quantum car are hopeful of programs like Mexico and Tucasa, which is scheduled to double in size and extend the other neighborhoods next year, will help boost production and churn out more EVs in the region. We are ready to go, said Marquez. Our inventory has been sold through July. So, electric vehicles getting a foothold in South America. Your story.
Hey, I'm happy to hear about lesser developed countries taking up the chance to become more developed and, compete against
more self-sufficient.
And compete against the current market, which is just completely and totally unregulated at this point.
Well, and it's skewed though. It's helping billionaires collect government subsidies.
Yeah.
For limited resources. All right, go ahead.
All right, in our culture news, we're going to talk about a topic that's come up to my attention in the last couple months, which is variable ticket prices for concerts.
Oh boy.
Those who recently wanted to get tickets for John Mayer's solo concert in the Ziggo Dome, which is a venue here in the Netherlands, had to swallow hard. The basic price was €100, but fans sometimes had to pay hundreds of euros more for a ticket, not for resale, but from the original sale of the tickets. Ticketmaster, one of the worst companies. If I would make a list of the 10 worst companies, they'd definitely be in my top 10. Right?
Lots of them.
They don't do anything except for logistics, and yet they can control prices, and all sorts of bullshit just goes on in Ticketmaster. A pricing strategy has come over from the United States this year that the travel industry and the companies such as Uber have been using for some time. Dynamic pricing. Tickets are then sold based on demand. Is there a lot of traffic on Ticketmaster's website? Then the price of that concert will increase significantly compared to the base price, just as happens with popular hotel rooms or airline tickets. The ticket for Mayer's tour could run from €99 to €400 each. Visitors will then receive a platinum ticket, but no platinum spot or VIP package. They're paying VIP prices, but none of the actual VIP things come with it. In the U.S., Dynamic pricing caused quite a stir last summer with ticket sales for Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift, among others. Cards sometimes went for $4,000 each. In particular, Springsteen, who is known as the American working class hero, was not expected to sell tickets for thousands of dollars. The plan was therefore met with a lot of criticism, and fan magazine Backstreets ended it after 46 years, out of anger at the ticket price affair. The event industry is looking for new ways to earn money with dynamic pricing. For years, artists have been confronted with the fact that tickets for their concerts are sold for extortionate prices. Extortionate prices, explains Atzi De Vries, pop journalist for VPRO. The lucrative resale is a thorn in their side. An intermediary then automatically buys the tickets and they are sold for more. The earnings do not go to the artist. It's going to be the same here. All this dynamic pricing is either going to Ticketmaster or to your agent or whoever the hell signed up with Ticketmaster to sell tickets, right? It's not going to the artist either. I incredibly doubt that the extra money is going anywhere near the artist at all. A concert tour is an expensive operation, which is subject to all kinds of price increases. There are many parties between artist and fan, especially among the greats, from artist management and venues to bookers, promoters and sponsors. They all want to get their foot between the door and earn money, says De Vries. Concertgoers also expect increasingly larger shows with more expensive decorations and special effects. If you look at the prices for concerts, they have to actually been too cheap for years, says De Vries. Ticketmaster itself says on its website that prices are determined in real time based on supply and demand, or probably a really shitty algorithm is what I like to call real time. It's not like there's a guy going there going, oh man, increase the prices. No, there's no person, right? It's a program who is programmed to do whatever you tell it to do, okay? It's not some sort of biasless existence. It has a bias, the one you programmed into it. Similar to how hotel and airline industry work, the goal of the platinum ticket is to provide access to the event for most dedicated fans. Oh yes, let's criminalize, not criminalize, but punish people for being fans. How dare you want to go see this person? Give me $10,000. In response to the criticism, the company called this system a significant shift needed to maintain the vibrancy and creativity of live music. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't want to hear your stupid bullshit. We're here to defend artistry. We're really right after COVID when nobody could do any concerts, so there's going to be a sudden boom in interest. Suddenly you're capitalizing on it? Yeah, just all about protecting the artist, sure. Artists nowadays rely on their live concerts, or so the idea goes. Gone are the days when millions of records and CDs were sold. Artists are absolutely aware of these kinds of prices are being asked for their concerts, says Atzi De Vries. It's the artists and the managers who determine the price and pricing strategy in consultation with the booker, Mojo and Ticketmaster then out. It is a tightrope walk for the artist between getting the most out of the concert tour while maintaining a bond with the fans at the same time. The system exploits the enthusiast's fear of missing out, and that can result in what the fool gives for it. The Ministry of Education, Culture and Science considers dynamic pricing an undesirable development, but calls it a matter for the market. State Secretary, the Dutch would say that after they crashed the first stock market over tulip bulbs. State Secretary Hulsa is working on further legislation and regulations regarding the resale of tickets. Pop venue Paradiso, itself a non-profit foundation, does not see dynamic pricing as a good development either. It's positive for the artists because they earn more money from the same concert. However, we think it's less good as a development in actual sales, says Eric Luyten, head of ticket sales at Paradiso. Even though only part of the tickets are sold at the larger concert halls for a variable rate, we still see this as a barrier to concert visits. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know. I don't get it. I think there needs to be a limit on it so that you're not charging $4,000 for a €100 ticket. I think that's $4,000, and I've been seeing it as well. It's something like, oh, this seat is really well designed. Like, some program somewhere decides the seat you want to purchase is very desirable, so we're also going to increase it by that much. It's not just the show's popular,
It's what the
there's
market
not a lot
will
of seats
bear.
left.
Yeah. In any case, it's what the market will bear. I guess that's what the point is. If you're stupid enough to pay for it, they're gonna make you pay for it. And if you're paying for a concert because of the pyrotechnics, I don't even want to go to a concert with you. Go to a fireworks show. They're free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, on to this day in history, I guess.
Boy, I came here for the fireworks. Really? Okay. Yeah. All right, this day in history. Boy, it's a kind of a mediocre day so far. I don't see greatness going here. All right. And Marie Antoinette married Louis the 16th in this day in 1770. Let him eat cake. 1801. American politician William Seward was born. He's known as the Secretary of State who bought Alaska from Russia. He was born this day in Florida, New York. There's a town called Florida, New York, in 1801. In 1866, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that called for the creation of the 5-cent piece, composed of nickel and copper, known as the nickel. In 1868, the first of 2 votes was held in the Senate impeachment trial of U.S. President Andrew Johnson, who was ultimately acquitted of all charges. In 1920, Joan of Arc was canonized as a saint by Pope Benedict XV. 1929, the first Academy Awards were presented. Janet Gaynor and Emil Jannings won for Best Actress and Actor, respectively. In 1955, Soviet gymnast Olga Korbut was born in Belarus. In 1961, the military seized power in South Korea, overthrowing the Second Republic as General Park Chung-hee took over the government machinery, dissolved the National Assembly, and imposed a strict ban on political activity.
No, that's not good.
In 1966, American rock group The Beach Boys released their masterwork of Pet Sounds, a bittersweet pastiche of songs recalling the pangs of unrequited love and other coming-of-age trials. A big deal for the Beach Boys. 1975. Tabi Junko of Japan, accompanied by Aung Saring of Nepal, became the first woman to reach the summit of Mount Everest. 1986, the action blockbuster Top Gun was released in American theaters and made Tom Cruise an international star. 2007, French politician Nicolas Sarkozy was sworn in as president of France. Defeated at the polls in 2012, he became the only second French president to fail in re-election bid since the foundation of the Republic in 1958. Fifth Republic, I should say. In 2019, Chinese-born American architect I.M. Pai, who is known for his large, elegant designed urban buildings, died at the age of 102. Right, and big Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. On this day in 1943, Nazi troops called the month-long Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which Polish Jews led by Mordecai Anowitz and the Jewish Fighting Organization resisted deportation to the Treblinka extermination camp. And born on this day, Henry Fonda. Actor Henry Fonda was born on this day in 1905 in Grand Island, Nebraska. Also born 1966, Janet Jackson. 1953, Pierce Brosnan. 1919, American pianist Liberace. And in 1861, H.H. Holmes, American serial. Oh, who gives a crap about a serial killer? We gotta remember his fucking birthday.
Yeah, fuck that.
Your mic cut off.
It's okay.
Oh, okay.
I just said fuck that. That's all I said.
I was like, why are we remembering some shitbag? I don't even want to know his name. And today, what day is it? Honor our LGBT Elders Day is May 16th. Okay. International Day of Light is May 16th. What would we do without light?
Would be
National
yeah.
Wouldn't exist at all. National Coquille Saint Jacques Day. Don't know what that means. I don't know how to pronounce it, so Saint Jacques. Coquilles, coquets,
Yeah.
coquets, is that how you pronounce it?
I have no idea.
Coquilles? Hey, whatever. Must not be our nation. Might be France. It's National Love a Tree Day. Right, I love trees. National Biographers Day. It's National Piercing Day. National Check Your Wipers Day. National Barbecue Day. National Sea Monkey Day. National Mimosa Day. National Movie Day. National Do Something Good for Your Neighbor Day. International Day of Living Together in Peace. And with that, we will close.
So basically what I have to do today is I have to take an elder LGBT person who is also my neighbor to the movies drinking mimosas while staring at the sun.
With a sea monkey. Have some barbecue. And don't forget to check your wipers and get a piercing.
Oh yeah, I'd have to check their wipers for them.
And get a piercing.
All right,
Something
well,
pierced today.
This has been
Make
Allison.
sure you use light.
This has been Allison going on a search to go find an LGBT elder so I can take him to the movies. I hope to see you tomorrow on Wednesday for the middle of the week.
It's not necessarily a scavenger hunt, but... and this is Roger in the United States, trying to avoid more Giuliani news. God. And May 16th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.